So what I do remember is that the average salary of just someone getting paid like minimum wage, which is what most people get paid, is like $200, maybe between like $180 to $200 a month. So, most people are not living alone. So, they're splitting the cost of, say, the mom and the dad and 3 kids on like $200 a month, which is pretty crazy. I mean, they only get paid, I think minimum wage was $4 a day. So they only get paid like $4 a day. But then, they go to the market and like one thing of, rice or one thing of beans is like $2. So just on like one shot, like one thing that they're going to probably eat in like a day or two is already like half of their day's work, right? So it's super, super hard to like save up money. Most people are just getting by on like a day-to-day kind of like weekly basis, right? And they don't get paid every day. I think there are jobs that they do, but yeah, they're kind of like living paycheck to paycheck. I don't remember like average kind of costs of certain things like toiletries or like certain food items, but I know that rent, depending on where you were, rent could be like easily could be like half of that amount that they were like allocated for the month. And that's why probably they didn't ever have like a ton of food, like on hand in their house. It was kind of like, oh, we need food. Okay, well, let's go down to the store and buy it, because like I mentioned before, there's tons of stores everywhere. But mostly because it's like, well, if we don't need the food, then let's like not go buy it, right? Because we don't have the money to do that, If they wanted to make eggs in the morning, they'd just run down to the store and get eggs, but they never buy like a carton of eggs, So it was interesting. That was really, really interesting. Yeah, the majority of the people that I worked with were kind of like living paycheck to paycheck on no more than $180 to $200 a month. And if they had 2 people working, then it could be like $400, but still between like, generally if there was 2 people working, it was because they had more kids. So then it was between like 6 or 7 people. So yeah, it was just kind of like a double-edged sword. You could work more, but it was only because you had to provide for more people. But kids do start working really young. Kids start working very young in like the coffee fields or out doing the harvest in some sort of crop or doing construction. So it is it's common that kids start working early to kind of bring in money for the family, because otherwise they're not able to make ends meet.
Do you have any guesstimate like how much it costs like per month, the apartment, kind of like the range, like low end, high end apartments, from any of your memories of like doing that?
So we never took care of the rent for our apartments, because the financial secretary would just take care of that from the office. So we never took care of that. Actually, we didn't like pay that out of our paycheck. I know in a lot of missions they do, and then they get like reimbursed. So I don't know how much it costs for us. But I think in like the houses that we stayed in, it was like $100 like a month or so for rent. And those were like maybe like 100, 120, and those were like mid to higher end houses, right? For other people, it would be anywhere from between like 60 to 100, I think. And they obviously that's like an apartment. A lot of people didn't have money for that, so they just go and like chop down a bunch of trees and set up a house like just kind of in the woods, with like 4 posts and tarps and stuff, and a bunch of like metal sheets as walls. But yeah, so I think yeah, for the Salvadorian people, I think most people pay between like 60 to 100 for just like normal houses or apartments. That being said, there's not a ton of apartments. There are, but most people just have their own houses that they've either built like with concrete or that someone else has built and they've just like paid it off.